this is a watermark.
Hello, welcome everybody to this Akira live development session, live vlog update. I'm gonna show you what the hell we've been doing for so long, but welcome. This is exciting. I haven't done this in a while, in a very long time, too long of a time, but hey, better late than never. So how's everybody doing? I already know from the chat that Amro is at the gym. Too bad, Amro. It's good that you're taking care of yourself and taking care of your body, but you should know better. That you should know that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I start doing a live streaming without any, I don't know, any, I don't know how to speak. Any announcement before, like a day before, a couple of days before. I should be more thorough in doing these things, but who cares? How's everybody doing? Where are you watching this video from? Today is Sunday, November 21st. It's 11 in the morning in cloudy, rainy Vancouver, which we had a pretty terrible week with a storm and rain. I'm not sure if you saw in your country all the terrible news about the floodings and shit, but we're managing. It's okay. I'm okay. It's all fine. But yeah, today I'm gonna show you some progress on Akira. What we've been doing for the past months, what it's taking so long, why we haven't released a new updated version on the elementary app center or a new flatpak version, why are we still stuck in alpha version, and what the hell is going on with the repository where the master branch hasn't been updated in 3 months or something. What's gone? Is this project dead or something? No, it's not. We're working very hard on another branch, but yeah, as usual, I'm gonna go through all the updates. I got my coffee here so I can sip it. Actually, it's finished, so it's useless. Got my water. I'm gonna go through all the updates and the new architecture that we've been building recently. I'm gonna show you some source code and how it works. We're gonna do some performance tests. I'm gonna show you some performance improvements, and yeah, I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna ramble for an hour. You can write all the questions that you wanted to chat. I will probably stop once in a while, maybe after 10-15 minutes of constantly talking. I will stop, read your questions, answer your questions, and then I will continue. If you have some questions specific to Akira, if you want to see something specific or you want a specific feature, just don't hesitate to write it down. But let's get started. So let me switch to the other screen. Okay, what's happening in the branch? If you are following Akira, if you're watching the branch, or if you're just using the flatpak version, you haven't received an update in months and months. The last update was on August 15, which was the Elementary OS 6 Odin release. We updated the packages to be compatible with Elementary OS 6. And that's it. You haven't seen anything else. And looking at the master branch, nothing happened here. It's still the same. It's exactly the same. Oh my god, 4 years ago, I first initially... this is terrifying. Okay, let's not get distracted. There's no update in the master branch. That's not because we haven't been coding, and I haven't been coding a lot on Akira, but it's because we are working on the main branch, and the main branch is gonna be sooner or later graduated as a primary branch. We're gonna cancel, we're gonna remove the master branch, we're gonna delete it entirely. That's because we've been rebuilding the architecture from scratch, literally from zero. And I'm using we, but I should say Martin. That's the contributor, Lord of all cubes. This one, Martin B. Fraga. I don't know if he wants to be outed online on a YouTube channel, but this guy has been rebuilding Akira entirely from scratch, the whole canvas architecture, all the source code. And the first main thing was dropping Goo Canvas. Goo Canvas started to become a liability pretty much early in the development process. It wasn't maintained, it wasn't actively maintained. Us, like the Akira contributors and myself, took on the I don't know. We tried to maintain it and update it, but the overall concept on which Goo Canvas was built on was a little bit flawed. There was a lot of duplications, a lot of unnecessary complexity that didn't really make sense for us. It was hard to also, because Goo Canvas version 2 was available in the Ubuntu repositories, we couldn't update that version 2, so we needed to create a fork of Goo Canvas. So we release a version 3, but version 3 is not easily available, is not available anywhere in any repository. So in order for contributors to actually use Akira, they needed to download Goo Canvas, compile it locally, and install it locally. And I know it's just a single library. It's pretty standard maybe for some development, for some developers, especially in open source developers, to actually download and compile other libraries and install other libraries in order to install the application. But it was getting taxing, it was getting annoying, and yeah, it wasn't straightforward. And we started seeing other applications, mostly Inkscape. Inkscape, it's pretty fast and it's pretty good for what it does, and it uses standard libraries and packages coming from the PPAs, the standard PPAs, available everywhere. So it's just Cairo, Pango, and GTK, and then C. That's it. Like, it doesn't have, of course there are other libraries and blah blah blah, but it's not like, it doesn't use anything like Skia or any other extra complicated things or external things. Not default of the most standard GTK based desktop, or available in any, pretty much in any PPA since, I don't know, 20 LTS before. So we wanted to simplify things, and the more and more we were working with Goo Canvas, the more and more we were having problems in performance. So we reached a point where we were doing some testing of generating 1,000 elements altogether. And 1,000 elements in a design application is not that much, actually. You can reach 1,000 elements pretty quickly if you're doing like multiple screens, or even a simple website design. You can surpass 1,000 elements pretty quickly. And we were doing some serialization and deserialization to save the file, load the file, or even copy paste elements. We needed to deserialize all the components of those elements, so the transform, the borders, the fields, and then create a new element and attach those new components or the duplicated components to create a copy paste, and a Control-Z, Control-V, like create a history. Handling all those steps, it was getting very, very taxing and heavy in performance, to the point that generating 1,000 elements altogether, it was taking around 10 seconds. Not okay. Not okay. Imagine you're opening your design file that is like, I don't know, you've been working on it for like 3 months and you have 10,000 images and elements in there. It takes a minute to load. Like, we're talking Illustrator version 8 or like CS1 Adobe Illustrator type of speed to open the software and load things up. It was not acceptable at all. And we started removing a lot of things, and we started identifying the problems. The major problem was the GTK widget. We were generating GTK widget in sync when we were generating the items, like the layers and the colors and the border and fill widgets and all the other things. We were updating GTK elements. And we were generating a new GTK widget layout every time we were generating a new items instead of reusing it. And it was super, super heavy on performance. We started improving that a little bit by delaying or not creating widgets unless they are visible, and that improved a little bit. But then the other major hit in performance was coming directly from Goo Canvas, because Goo Canvas is a layer on top of Cairo and has its own objects and item, and everything is an object, even when we don't need to. Sometimes you need just a model with just a class. You don't need the glib object to trigger events or listen for changes or notify changes. You just need a class, and we couldn't easily integrate that into Goo Canvas. It didn't accept that type of things. And also, because Goo Canvas hasn't been properly updated in many, many years, it lagged behind the most recent improvements and the most recent changes in the way the architecture works. And especially Martin, the contributor, he's a heavy C++ developer. And C++ started from C++ version 20. There are a lot of performance improvements instead of like memory allocation, heap allocation, garbage disposal. We have the issue with Vala that handles garbaging, like the handles trashing of classes and clearing the garbage collection automatically, and that started to become a little bit weird. And then the architecture that I built wasn't very well done, because we were passing around the generated object to other widgets. So when you were deleting the object, the reference of that object was still alive and present in all the widgets. So we weren't actually deleting that object. That object was still flying around in the ether of our sort. It was just a mess, but it's normal because we're building this from scratch, and we've been through a couple of rebuilds. The second rebuild wasn't really a rebuild. I changed a little bit the architecture. And it was a good proof of concept. If you load Akira from Flatpak, you can use it. It works. It's fairly solid. It has all the test and the basic functionality that you need, but it wasn't the most, is not the most solid and scalable thing, especially this. Like the layers panel was one of the worst thing ever, because this is based on GTK list box, and the GTK list box, especially in GTK 3, it's so heavy. It's not acceptable. Let's see if I can start. This is already, I don't know if you see this. I don't think it's noticeable, but I'm starting to see a little bit of slowdown in generating these items. GTK list box start having a hiccup when you pass 1,000 items. 100 items. After you pass 100 items, it starts to slow down a little bit. It gets very heavy. Yeah, all these little problems that arise from the fact that we are building this from scratch. We don't have any real life examples mostly, but yeah, with around 100 elements, it's starting to get a little bit heavy. We don't like this. Especially one thing that was very, very heavy to do and it didn't work was scrolling this layers panel to select, for example, we have the rectangle 0 here. If I scroll back up, you cannot see the rectangle 0. Let me shrink it down. Rectangle 0 is right here and it's selected right now is this one. Let me color it differently so I know which one. If I select another rectangle, these lists should scroll and focus on which rectangle is actually clicked and actually selected. This was very heavy to do with listbox and didn't really work. It was starting to get very heavy, especially this, like loading this was getting taxing and it wasn't, it's acceptable right now as a proof of concept, but it's not scalable. We were starting to reach like very hard performance hits and it was like this is not doable, this is not scalable at all, this doesn't work nicely, it's gonna get out of hand pretty quickly, pretty easily. So yeah, we need to rebuild this from scratch, and we did, and mostly Martin did. In the main branch, you can follow it. If you see the commits, you see that this branch is 62 commits ahead of master. And the most latest commit was 3 days ago. I did it for the layers panel, but we needed to rebuild everything from scratch. So we have our library. Now it's exploded and split in many things. We dropped Goo Canvas entirely. We have the drawables. The drawables item are amazing solution of drawable class. A drawable class is just a simple class. It's not a glib object because we don't need a glib object to notify anything or anything. It's just a really simple class, and it takes care of actually drawing the object in the canvas to the chirometrics. And whenever something changes, we just mark this drawable thing as dirty and we recompile it and redraw the item. And I know I'm not explaining it right, it's so good. It's just really, it's very, very good and very, very easy and very, very fast. So I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna show some improvements and some performance tests that we've been doing. But so far, of course, it's fairly bare bone because we've been removing the UI a lot. As you can see here, there's no UI, there's no transfer panel. We just have the layers panel. I'm working on the layers panel so I can work on this. Probably I'm gonna work on this sometimes today or maybe right now, I don't know. But for example, creating an object first, it's extremely fast. There was a little bit of delay that it's hard to see it and it's hard to notice it when you have a fast computer. But for example, on my laptop, creating a layer or creating a new item had that half a second delay and it wasn't the best. Of course, here there are some the artboard has these border because we are rebuilding all the items. There's no styling here for now. We just building everything from scratch, and you can see also the layers are not properly styled because I remove all the extra GTK CSS to make it look fancy. I didn't care about this, but in this situation, for example, if I delete this, if I press G, and I'm gonna show you the yeah, first of all, we're checking the performance. So here we deleted one item in 0.0005 seconds. Before, in the master version of Akira, I was taking like half a second to delete an item because it was going around trying to find all the thing. We have some GTK issues here because I'm working on the name and geometry, whatever. I need to take care of those issues. But also here, cannot even represent the split second, so it goes It goes in nanoseconds or whatever. But if I press, look at here, if I press G, boom, it crashes because we got a segmentation fault because I deleted items where I shouldn't have deleted. If I press G, we got 1,000 items created. See, I have ellipse 1,000 here. And 1,000 items were created in 0.01 seconds. So less than 100 milliseconds. It literally took 0.01.6 seconds, and it's amazing. And we have all these 1,000 items, all the elements are created here. If I select an item, look where the layers list box scrolls and goes and select. Now I'm ellipse 793. If I select another one, I'm ellipse 503, select another one. It just changes and it's so fast. And of course here we have, look how snappy this is. Like these are 1,000 items. And of course if I scroll in, it gets even faster, but by default, doing these on master, it's partially unusable because it's very slow, it's very iffy and sketchy, and it doesn't work very well. And yeah, we're doing these massive performance improvements, and I'm so excited because it took us so long to achieve these, but now this architecture is so scalable and it's future proof, at least until we switch to GTK4. GTK4 will make things even better, but for now with GTK3, we solved this issue by basically copying what Elementary OS has been doing on the mail, on the email client. These are, this is a virtualized GTK list box emulation. So we're actually only seeing, and we actually have only the items that are present in the viewport. All these other items are actually, when I scroll, these are getting generated dynamically from the list box model, or the model that holds all the layers that we have. And the model is just a hash map, like a map array of all the items. We are only seeing, and we're only generating the items that are the layers that are in the viewport. All those 200 above and the rest of 1,000 above, they're not there. So we're only seeing like 20 of these. The other 980 are not generated, are not present. We're just only simulating the scrolling. And when we actually scroll, we're actually generating this thing, which is phenomenal. Also, we implemented multi-selection. So if I click and move around, now I got it selected. If I click with Shift, it selects all the layers that are here. I can delete them, and also delete the 13 items in 0.006 seconds. It's just so stupid fast. And we have also copy paste. So I have these, Control C, Control V, boom, 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 boom. Look, I'm duplicating. I'm copying and pasting all these things, and it's just so stupid fast. And I can select them all. I can move them around together. I can resize them together. Doing these in Goo Canvas was so hard. It was very, very hard to achieve. It was almost terrible. And my dog is making his bed. I don't know if you can hear it. It's making a mess because he's scratching on his bed, so I'm sorry. But doing these now is, look at this. It's so fast, so good, and it's insane. It's insanely fast. I'm so excited about this. It took us so long. We can delete them all. Also, yeah, 13 items, 0.04 is just so good. So excited. These are all the improvements that we've been doing on the canvas. I mean, there's a lot of code underneath. And if you're curious, just take a look at the repository, take a look at the source code. It's just so stupid fast. Another thing that we've been doing is the interface. Now you can let the interface follow the system variation. Just a second. Let's see if I can. My dog was going batshit crazy on his bed. It was just scratching. It was making a mess. You can follow the system variation. So dark theme here, it's unchecked. You cannot toggle it because it's disabled. But if you open your system preferences, you go to desktop and you make appearance dark, also see the Akira interface turns dark because following the specification of the desktop. But it's pretty standard, it's pretty safe. Another improvement that we've been doing, let me clear this up because deleting things is not great. We have an initial implementation of the vector tool. Look at this. You can click around. You see these glitches. We are solving these glitches. This is the Cairo context not updating quick enough. But when you click and drag, now it's not visible. You can do like a curved path. Yeah. All these glitches have been solved, and then you double click and you exit and you have your path. When you double click, you re-enter the path. You cannot edit it yet, but we're working on that. That's Ashish, that's another contributor, is working on this thing. It's implementing the path tool, and we have all these things were amazing and just so exciting. Another thing that we've been working on is there are a couple of pull requests that are getting considered. First of all, I'm working on the layers list improvement. I just implemented a massive performance improvement and the hover effect. I need to fix the delete of layers. Sometimes deleting layers, especially if the layers belong to an artboard, or you delete an artboard with the layers inside, it just doesn't work. And I will slowly re-implement the feature that are on master. So double click to edit the layer name, maybe like hide and unlock the layer, show unlock the layer. But there's another thing. We have the guideline features. I need to review these, which is pretty darn good. So we're gonna check it out together. First of all, let me switch to git checkout main. Do you all have any questions so far? How is it looking? It's looking pretty good, pretty fast, right? Let me switch this. Okay. We compile it. So if we open an artboard, we create an artboard, we have it here. And then we hit, for now, this is just temporary, but if we hit Q, we got horizontal guide. If we hit W, we got a vertical guide. And you can select the guide and move it around, and look what happens. It appears, I don't know if you can see it. Let me zoom in. I don't know if you can see it. It shows, I don't know how the zoom went on. Yeah, it shows the distance between the edges of the artboard and the other elements. So if I create another horizontal or vertical, it should show the distance top and bottom. Top and bottom, yes, it show like from the bottom there's another guide, there's no more another guide, but top 0 0 0 boom, and now you are top and bottom like that, and left and right from another guide. These needs a lot of improvement, it needs a lot of work. If you drag it to the edge and leave it, is just deleted. There are some issue here. You can see if I move it around, there's a little bit of delay. They just jump a little bit around. It should be faster. We shouldn't see these. When you delete the whole artboard, it just deletes everything. So it's fairly good, but it needs more improvements, of course, but it's a start, and it's looking very good. I need to review the code, but so far it's good. And then we have more stuff. So improve the vector tool and implement the ability of modifying the points. And then We have another one, which is implementing the linear gradient. This is outdated now because it was pointing on master, but this is a feature that we will have soon. So in the color picker, we will have the gradient modifier. We will be able to generate gradients in a pretty standard fashion way. It's not bad. Not too bad. Okay. What is that? What did you share, Danny? What is the link? It points to a link that doesn't allow me to open it, but yeah, a lot of good stuff, a lot of good improvements, a lot of work needs to be done. But that's what we've been working for quite a while now. And it's, yeah, it's a lot. It's challenging, it's not easy, takes a lot of time, but we're getting there. We gain massive performance improvements. We had some discussion about switching directly to GTK4 right away, but personally, I don't think is that mature, GTK4. Especially since Ubuntu didn't ship the latest version with GTK4 by default, is still holding back on the GNOME desktop. It's not widely available, and also it's a massive rewrite. So we are still in the process of solidifying our architecture and making it scalable and usable for the future. Also, another massive improvements that we did, it was completely detaching the canvas from anything GTK related. So now the canvas can be extracted and reused it can be reused with whatever toolkit you want. So if in the future GTK Rust becomes a thing, or no, Rust, no. If in the future, I don't know, a new toolkit, KDE gets like 10 times performance improvement, Qt gets all this good stuff. So it's completely detached from the GTK widgets and the GTK toolkit. So it doesn't matter if we will end up when we will end up upgrading to GTK4, the architecture of the Canvas library and the generation of all those things is completely detached. It's just pure Cairo. There are some GDK window management and pointer events that we need to understand how to upgrade to GTK4, because some of those things have been deprecated or changed drastically. But we're first focusing on releasing a stable beta version. So all the work that we're doing right now, as soon as it's done, as soon as the UI is ready and it's usable, it will be released as first beta, so 0.1. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do some beta release candidate before releasing the beta or whatever, but yeah, we're graduating Akira to a beta version, and yes, this is all the work that we've been doing. So yeah, Danny says ship it already. Yeah, the ship it broken. It's fine. Adson from Brazil, hello, thank you. Danny was trying to share a link with me, but even if it's a moderator, you cannot share a link, whatever. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a lot of work that needs to be done still, but the architecture is so easy to manage, and it's so easy to control and scale. I'm so happy. I'm just happy. It was getting daunting. We reached a point where working on Akira was getting fairly frustrating because of all the architectural limitations that we were encountering. and it wasn't fun anymore. It was like, I don't really want to touch these because I know I'm gonna spend like 2 months just to have a barely usable implementation, and I know that as soon as the users will have hundreds of these elements, it's going to be a shit show, hard to manage and hard to maintain. So I wasn't keen on working on it. I dropped it a little bit. I was like, this is getting terrible. And it was mostly because the architecture wasn't good enough to accommodate all the things that we needed. So yeah, this is looking pretty good so far. And there are a lot of things that I need to improve. Oh, I'm so tired. But this is a little hint of what basically, to improve the layers list box, we have this virtualization list box, which is, as I said, it comes from elementary OS. The virtualization list box basically doesn't generate things that are not inside inside the viewport, and when it does, it doesn't really create a new one, but reuses an old widget. So if we already have a widget that it's there, we don't need to destroy that and create a new widget, because creating a GTK widget is expensive. Depends on the widget itself, but usually it's expensive. So creating quickly a lot, like hundreds GTK widgets all together, it gets expensive, especially if you don't know what I'm doing, and I didn't know what I was doing. But then we have now this factory function. This factory function, it's called whenever a layer gets into the viewport, and now we need to generate the widget, or we need to reuse a widget that we have. We simply assign the data model to update that. This factory function approach is identical, almost identical to what GTK4 does for the new list box view or list view. They have this new widget, which is stupid fast, and it follows this principle, just as built-in. Like we don't need to maintain these virtualizing list box, which is a lot of code to manage the allocation and the scrollable things and all this extra stuff. But without with GTK4, we won't need to have our virtualizing list box. We can use the built-in, but the logic is exactly the same. We have a factory function that only gets called when it makes sense to generate the widget, when we need to generate it. If we already have the widget, we reuse it, we recycle it in order to not slow down things unnecessarily, which is great. But yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Now I need to work on my layers list item, because for now it's just a label and that's it. And I'm changing the UI based on what it is. If it's an artboard, I need to, when we delete this, so tired. When we delete this, I need to delete all the other elements, because we have a little bug here. So let me show you the bug. Yeah, it's done, right? Okay, if I create an artboard and I create an item inside, now I have two items. First, like visually, of course, these should be underneath and should be a child of these, but this is just UI, it doesn't matter. But if I delete these artboard, look what we got here. We have an item, like still a layer that doesn't have a data model anymore, because we actually deleted the data model, but the layer wasn't deleted because it wasn't selected. And here we have this issue, hey, we got something without name for the software. Like I cannot get the name because the component's name, it just doesn't exist anymore. Because right now, the issue here is that an item that is generated inside an artboard is a child of that item. So the artboard is a group. For layers, for now, they're all on one stack. Like they don't understand child and parent hierarchy. I just need to link it up and check if I'm deleting an artboard or a group, loop through all the child items of that artboard and group, and ping the layer to actually delete those. So if I try to create something else, sometimes I get, oh, I just generated 2,000 items and it's still not slowing down. We are 3,000 items. Look how fucking, oops, sorry, I should have said it. Look how fast it is, this thing. I generated another 1,000 items, 4,000 items, and it's still rocking. Broom. Okay. If I delete them all, wow. It's, yeah, this doesn't work. Yeah, there you go. It's there are these sketchy things, and you can see here a million different issues that we got, and it crashes because that element wasn't, yeah, of course, like I know why it's happening, but it's still impressive that I was able to generate 1,000. How long did it take to delete all those items? Created 1,000, deleted 4,000 items in 0.01 seconds. Look at this. I'm so impressed. It's so fast. These creation and deletion timing matter a lot because that's the reference of what's going to happen when you duplicate something. Because when you copy and paste, it's literally like creating a new item and attaching all the components of that item that you created from the one that you copied. So deleting is basically removing all those components, and creating is adding all those components. If creating and deleting 4,000 items doesn't affect performance at all, duplicating them will not, because it's the same exact process, and we're using a serialization and deserialization process. So it amazing. So yeah. Raghav said, got to know about Vala language today. Looks similar to C++. By the way, nice work. Look great. Yes, Raghav. Vala is a C type language, not C++. It's more akin to C than C++, but it simplifies a lot. To me, it's more similar to PHP than actually C or C++, which is perfect because I'm a PHP developer. I started as a PHP developer, so it's great. It's so easy to understand. It's so, I don't know, it's so approachable. The more I use it, the more I see that a lot of things are missing. For example, there are a lot of structures and pointers and memory management things that C++ has by default and makes things way easier and faster to manage. You can import a library that does a lot of things for you. Vala, it's a little bit more bare bone. You need to create a lot of things by yourself, but the compiling speed of Vala into C, which is not actually Vala, but it's a C compiler, is just mind-blowing. It just takes literally few seconds for this type of project, so it's great. Yeah, Amro, I can definitely delete that swear in post. Oh. That's an impressive number of items. Yes, it is. It's mind-blowing. Colin Kiyama asks, what tools do other languages have? Do you feel that Vala is missing? Oh, a lot. Vala doesn't have like a stack trace, doesn't have it's not easy to debug Vala. You can debug it, but it's very, I mean, it's like debugging C, but it's not as intuitive as other languages. It's not as widespread and used as other languages, so you have less resources than other languages. But it's getting there. It's improving. like we have Vala language server finally. This is something that I don't remember who's using it. Who created it? Princeton Pharaoh. Princeton Pharaoh created the Vala language server support. You can install it. We have Vala lint. But the Vala language server is incredible because you hover it and it gives you the description of the this class GTK grid, what other classes extends, and there's a full description of what that class does. And it works also for the your custom classes. So my layers list item is extending the virtualizing list box row. The item model is a glib job object, so it helps a lot. I mean, the Vala language server, but it's not as good as others. Also, the testing infrastructure of Vala is not that great. We have a few tests here. You can have like a test case function and run the test. It's not Vala, I think it's glib. But it's kind of convoluted. It's not the best. I wish there were I wish Vala was a little bit more mainstream. If Vala was more mainstream, we would have way more tools and resources and built-in libraries for all the most basic things that you could do. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Absolutely. If it was bad, I wouldn't use it. It's amazing. All the native bindings for all the GTK things. If you're in the GNOME ecosystem, Vala makes a lot of sense, unless you like C or C++. But yeah, I like Vala a lot. Yeah. It's what made me capable of writing native applications. I tried to learn C. Nope. Like no. It was like a hard pass for me. So not great. Not a great experience trying to learn C. But yeah, this is what we've been working on for the past few months on Akira, and things are speeding up. I hope to have for the end of next week the layers panel reaching features parity to what we have on master. So drag and drop, reorganizing, groups, artboards, opening and closing, collapsing different parents child relationship, and then the hide, lock layers, rename the layers name, the layers item or the item. Oh, so tired. And after that, I will start working on the transfer panel. The transfer panel is a whole other beast because also there it needs a lot of proper workflow. We had like some issues where if you change if you move an item around, then you communicate to layers panel that your top and bottom location, like X and Y, Z locations, or like all the coordinates of the item are changed, and you update the input fields. But then if you update the input fields, they should communicate to the item to change, because if you interact with the transfer panel, you should let the items know that they need to be updated. But then it creates that infinite loop of the item updates the transfer panel, and the transfer panel updates the item, and so forth and so forth. So we need a middleware. I created a middleware that handles that data, but also the middleware is kind of sketchy. It doesn't work very well. So yeah, there's a lot of thinking in order to make it scalable and fast and not stutter as soon as you try to handle multiple items and all together. But yeah, it's looking promising. I'm hopeful for the future of Akira, and hopefully somewhere next year, like first quarter of next year, we're gonna release a beta. I will try to, during vacation time, during Christmas, we'll try to push on Akira a lot to try to reach feature parity and then release a beta version. And then we will move from there and we will go and see what the future brings. But yeah, so of course, if you like Akira, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my content, as usual, subscribe to my channel, share this video, let everybody know that Akira is still alive and kicking and it's improving a lot and it's gonna happen. Sooner or later it's gonna happen, absolutely. You can already use it on Flatpak. You can download a Flatpak version. It's an alpha version. You can play with it and have fun. It's very limited functionalities, but it's a very solid proof of concept. So that's the objective that we want to have, and we want to make it feature rich, and we're gonna be able to do it, and it's gonna happen. Other than that, thank you so much for sticking around, participating to this live streaming, and as usual, happy coding, and I talk to you in the next one. Okay, see ya.